here. Um, my name is Erin Ellis. Welcome. This is Live Life Moving. This studio is designed for people over 50 and people who are coming back to exercise or don't like to exercise. It was kind of designed to address what I feel like is needed as far as, the mainstream makes fitness look so intense and such a big deal, and it doesn't have to be that way. And we don't want 80% of the population not working out because they don't have a choice. I was actually looking at someone else is opening up a studio here, and there's some that we have athletes for sure that come here, but also, if you look at the marketing world, some of it is the fitness world is driven toward here's my mom, sports. And maybe we didn't do sports. Maybe you don't have an identity with that. So hopefully you can find something different, especially when it comes to Pilates. So I've had this studio here. I've been here open almost 3 years. I think 3 years now. And let me put my face on here for them. There we go.
Thank you.
Hey, Mom. Oh, she's wearing her sweater. Oh, she's not up there. Nice sweater, Mom.
Wow. I'm sure it's okay.
All right, I'll go ahead and put you on mute. And I'm just going to talk a little bit more about, hold on a second. There we go. A little bit more about my beginnings and how I got here. So I've been in St. Pete for 3 years, about 3 years. But Live Life Moving as a concept started as of May 8 years ago in New Jersey. So, and before that, I'd owned studios and been in the fitness business since 2003. I was certified in Pilates from New York City in 2005. So I've been teaching for almost 20 years. And kind of what we do here is, it's a lot of what I've learned, but then a lot of what I observed and thought was missing in the market, in the fitness industry, so that you can realize that that exercise can feel good and be attainable. Because I'm not an avid exerciser. I was a dancer, a web developer, now a studio owner, and I'm sewing again. I used to do fashion and costume design. So my brain's always going. So I'm always looking for the most efficient way to work out to stay healthy. But luckily, because of my dance experience, which was mostly in the Martha Graham technique, Martha Graham actually studied with Joseph Pilates. So they kind of worked with each other. So it's really cool. That technique taught me Pilates before I even took my first Pilates class. So, and I feel like my body is kind of a testament of having done it for so long, that, and just, and it wasn't a crazy like CrossFit thing. I wasn't ever like burning myself out, just being consistent and loving to move in my artistic way. And I feel like it's kept my, I'm 56 years old, and it's almost 56, and it's kept my body pretty mobile despite when we get older, our priorities really change. And it's not necessarily the science of our metabolism slowing down, which is definitely part of it, but our priorities just change. We don't want to, we're more into enjoying life, I think. And so we're looking for things that are going to help that, and not get in the way of it. So that's, wait, hold on, where are my stuff? Okay. Hold on, let me a second. Let me get my bearings. So let's go ahead and start the workshop. So has anybody done Pilates here before? Besides current clients? Yeah, we got current clients. So we've got 3 newbies, which I'm very excited about. So I get to introduce you to the real Pilates, the authentic source of Pilates, not really necessarily what you see in mainstream today, which has taken Pilates and of course made it, try to get a shortcut to hot bodies. And this Pilates was actually developed in a little different manner. I'm on the wrong screen. Let me get myself organized here. Lots of technology happening right now. There we go. Okay, so today's objectives, I'm going to teach you the principles and the foundations of Pilates, including the history of Pilates, so you understand the original purpose of the Pilates method. We're going to explore from a technical level, and what we begin with in Pilates always is the importance of knowing where your pelvis is. I laugh because some of my clients are like, it's all about the pelvis. It's all about the pelvis. And you'll hear us talk about that a lot because that is your center of gravity. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the pelvis and how we work with the shoulder girdle as well, and just how we work with alignment in Pilates. We're going to learn what we call the pre-Pilates mat work, which actually was developed by disciples of Pilates, but it helps us. It was really developed for people who couldn't do the original moves, who needed something a little more regressed and a little more gentle and simple so that they could just start to feel good moving their bodies. And that's honestly one of the cornerstones of when we work with a new client. We really work with these Pilates, pre-Pilates moves, because it's the easiest way to teach you about your alignment, but it also, they feel really good. In fact, to this day, we still start most sessions with some pre-Pilates because, you know, we're all over 50 and we need a little bit more time to warm up. And then we might get to talking a little bit about some of the equipment and how the equipment supports your body, so you kind of understand how that was all put together. Uh-oh. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the history of Pilates. Joseph Pilates was actually a person. He was born in 1883 in Germany. As a young child, he was riddled with severe illnesses, and he actually worked on rejuvenating himself. His father was a gymnastics person, so he learned a lot from his father about how to move your body. He moved to New York City in 1925 to open up a studio. But before that, what do I have on here? Yeah. Before that, he was in a prisoner camp in World War I in Germany. And while he was there, that's when he started looking at his fellow inmates and starting and seeing them lose strength. And so he started to develop exercises for them to do to stay strong. And there was a big breakout of, I believe it was tuberculosis. I have to double check but he did, all the people that worked with him didn't get sick, supposedly. So I don't think it was tuberculosis, but it was something similar. But that was his testament to his method really starting to work, was all of the inmates that worked with him stayed healthy. The method is over 100 years old, Ben. So he's been doing it before he moved here in 1925. So, and when he created it, he was researching, he would look at animals and how they moved and dissected that and looked at babies and watched human movements. So he was really a human movement scientist. And most people say way before his time. As a matter of fact, in 2017, I decided to get a different personal training certification. And so much of it was actually stuff that he talked about already. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. He believed a few well-designed movements properly performed in a balanced sequence are worth hours of doing sloppy calisthenics or forced contortions. All right, that's very 1940s speak. He wrote that in. But yeah, so he less is more. Less is more. And what's amazing about the exercises, you can do 5 minutes of them and feel totally different about your body once you understand it and learn it. That's what's so great about it, is you don't have to do that much to keep your body moving well. So he did develop this mat workout, which you can see looks pretty extreme. But he developed it for the general fitness. He trained mostly men to start off with. So he would force these men into these are kind of contortions, but they're actually you know, just foundations of how the body moves. There's different elements. There's rotation. We're going to talk about all that a little bit more. But that was his first thing he developed, was the mat workout. And here he is when he did come over to the States. He was at Jacob's Pillow, which is a dance company or dance school in, I believe, the Berkshires. And he would do classes for them. When he moved into New York City, his studio was in a building that housed lots of dancers and artists. So that's how it became more of a known as a dancer's workout, just simply because George Balanchine's studio was in the same studio, so they would come work with him when they were injured. But it was always intended to be for everybody. And so if you go back to there, that's called the teaser. That's one of the big Pilates moves that everybody wants to master. It is one of the more advanced moves. And he realized through working with all these people, though, that they were having a hard time with his mat work because it was kind of crazy. So, and they really needed their body to be balanced and mobile to do this. So for people that weren't, he started developing equipment. So if you can see here, there's a wooden bar, and we have those. There's one over there. If you look behind you in the studio, they're over there on the tower. This is basically the Cadillac that he's on. You can see that he's doing the same kind of move with his upper body, but he's got help. The bar is actually helping him come up because it's attached to a spring. So we'll show you a little bit more about that later, but that's when he started to see, how can I develop equipment that's going to help support the body so that people can learn to do the body weight exercises. The goal is always to get people just to do the mat exercises because they can do it anywhere for the people. It's, and it's, you don't need any equipment, but to get started, there are definitely pieces of equipment that help. So here's what his original studio. So you can see he's got these machines that were developed from bed frames. And those are the reformers that you see here. But yeah, it was a bunch of springs and a carriage that moved back and forth. But what was cool is people would lay on them and you could practice keeping your body stable while moving your legs. So when you get on the reformer, that's the whole purpose of that piece of equipment, is it moves and it challenges your stability. He also wrote a book called Return to Life Through Contrology. Contrology is the actual name of his method, not Pilates. That's him. Contrology was the name of the method. But this was published in 1945, and it not only does it have the mat exercises in it, but it also does have the reason why, his purpose, his objective, what his thoughts about exercise and how people should exercise, what in the industrial society and age is starting to cause problems with us because we're not moving around as much. We're seated a lot. That hasn't changed much. It's gotten more extreme. So it really talks about all these things he used to do, or all these things he put together to help the body be healthy. And then we're getting close to the end of the history here. So this is the Pilates lineage. So that in Pilates, it's a little snooty Pilates, but whatever. There are these 7 people we call the Pilates elders, and they're the people that worked directly under him and went out and taught his method. Now, what's really cool is if you look at the middle, the second and third, Eve Gentry and Kathy Grant, this pre-Pilates work that I'm talking about that we'll start playing with, they actually came up with it because they were like, his method's great, but it's too intense for some new people. So how can we work on the concepts? How can we develop pre-Pilates exercises to help people get these concepts? That's very cool. Then the most of them were dancers. I believe everyone except for Lolita, I think all of them were dancers to begin with. But what's interesting, Mary Bowen, this second to last person, she actually took the Pilates method and combined it with her psychiatry practice. So she kind of combined both things for the mind-body connection. It's pretty cool. Okay, so I have a little video we're going to watch. Just be patient with me if you're on Zoom. I got to figure out how to do this. So go into here. Where are you? Let me just bring this up. So this is a video that SNL did on Pilates. Basically, it's what's Pilates today? And it's very funny. Just let me get there here. Let's see if this works. Okay. I just closed out this browser and I shouldn't have. All right, guys, hold on a second. I lost my bookmark. Ooh, it's really not happy either. All right, so this is very funny, but it's also very true. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this going. Hold on one second. Oops, zoom. Where'd it go? There it is. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Oh, come on. Let me see if I can get it to play in the keynote. That's what I'll do. Oh, of course, the last time I did this, it did not do the sound for me. Oh, darn it. Let's see. I'm going to try to do it here. Let's blow this up. All right. You know what? That's not going to happen. But I will send you the link. It's very funny. But basically, it makes Pilates look like this mostly impossible, nightmarish torture thing, which is absolutely not supposed to be. But it's also become very commercial. Like, should they make fun of having to buy sticky socks to work out in when you really don't have to have sticky socks to work out in? But just like, it's become a very mainstream millennial type thing, which is absolutely not what we want people to think about Pilates. It shouldn't be intimidating. It should be lovely and feel good. So that's what we will focus on. Hold on one second. Okay. So so despite how scary that video would have made it feel, there are some really great benefits to Pilates. First of all, one thing that I know we're all interested in is it helps cognitive function. You're actually learning a new skill when you learn Pilates and you're learning about your body. So when you're learning something new, your brain develops more new neural pathways, and that's what helps prevent cognitive diseases and cognitive decline. So, and it's a thinking man's workout, thinking woman's workout, thinking person's workout. You have each exercise and each workout encompasses what we call the four S's: stretch, strength, stamina, and stability. So, stretch and mobility, stamina, your ability to be able to carry on activities for a long time with zest and pleasure, as he would say. Stability, being able to balance, being able to control your spine. And I missed one, strength. Yeah, and it is a full body workout. Pilates can be your only strength training if you want it to be. Um, Restores mobility to the spine and hips, especially when we're talking about bending down and picking stuff up. A lot of these exercises that you'll see us do are all about restoring the mobility to your hips so you can bend down and pick stuff up off the floor. I'm always testing to see if I can pick my dog food bowls up. That's always a good sign that I'm mobile. If I make a grunting noise when I do it, then I need to increase my Pilates practice. It's also going to increase your breathing capacity. He built this exercise method around proper breathing. So it's actually going to help you take in more oxygen in one breath and expel all the oxygen in one exhale. So it actually works with your breathing muscles, which we're going to go over a little later. obviously it's postural stamina, being able to hold yourself upright for long periods of time. This is what's really important. It's not necessarily about how much weight you can lift over your head, but can you maintain control of your body over a long period of time? That's what we're working on here. It is a full body workout. So when you really get into the method, you start to work on every muscle in your body. It also works on proprioception. If you've ever been with a trainer or seen someone stand on a balancing board or a Bosu, like the half dome ball, which I'm not a big fan of for unless you're super advanced, because I think there's a lot of injury that can happen with that. But he developed this equipment to help that proprioception, which is your brain's ability to respond to what's going on in its environment. So that's when you stand on a Bosu and it is wobbly, you're trying to stand up straight. That's what helps. But we're working on this connection to mind and body, so your body knows what to do immediately if it senses you're going to trip and fall, basically. And the last thing about Pilates, it is a system. It's not one exercise. It's a system of how the exercises and the equipment work together in order to help balance out your body. Got too many things here. So let's talk a little bit about the anatomy of Pilates. This is the fun stuff. This is sassy anatomy, the skeleton. So we're going to cover the spine and the sections of your spine. We're going to talk a little bit about the pelvis, and that's the center of gravity. And we're going to talk about the shoulder girdle, which is your upper body. And then finally, really talk about what is good posture. All right, so here is our spine. It is 32 vertebrae. It also has those little blue things you see are the discs, which I know you've all heard of, that cushion between each vertebra. Now notice also there are curves of the spine. The way the spine is constructed with these curves is what allows you to stand up straight. Those curves are important for taking load of the body while you're standing up. And we've got the cervical spine, which is the first 7 vertebrae, which is your neck. We've got the thoracic spine, which is the mid-back, kind of around your rib cage all the way down to your lower back, that lower back curve. The lumbar spine, which has 5 vertebrae, which is the thickest vertebra and the most stiff vertebra because it's the closest to your pelvis, which is your center of gravity. And then you've got the sacrum, which is actually 5 vertebrae fused together. Hold on a second. Let me grab my little model. Gives you a live visual aid. Oh, that's the pelvis. Oh, sure. I just wasn't sure if
It's okay with others.
is that better? All right, cool.
Close that one.
Sure. Well, there we go. Okay. So if you look at, where's my little? So if you look at this little pelvis here, the sacrum is right on the back. So that's the sacrum, that's that bottom part of your spine. And you can see it's just a bunch of vertebrae fused together. Right there, you'll see it. See those little holes? But again, we're back into the pelvis now. Everything has to be pretty solid in the pelvis. And then there's your tailbone, which is this little thing here. This isn't your tailbone. This little baby thing is your coccyx, your tailbone, and that actually helps you sit properly as well, and helps distribute load when you're sitting. So that's just all. There's a reason why there's everything. A reason why the bones are constructed the way they are. What we focus on in Pilates is reestablishing the movements of the spine. So the first one we have is flexion. So these are paintings that I did for the studio to represent the movements of the spine, since I thought an anatomy chart might be a little boring. So we have flexion, which is the curved spine, the C curve of the spine. We've got extension, which is, back bending or extending your spine the other way. And then finally, we've got side bends or lateral bends. So we're trying to move the spine this way, forward and back. And then, of course, finally, we've got rotation, which is rotating around. Now, what's really interesting about rotation, which is a lot important to remember, notice how the vertebra it's thicker on the bottom and it gets thinner at the top of the spine. That indicates the smaller the vertebra, the more rotation you're going to get. So a lot of times when we're doing twisting in fitness classes, a lot of people focus on twisting in the lower back, and that's actually not possible. It's not built to rotate that much. Most of the rotation happens in that thoracic spine in the middle. And then, of course, the neck, so you can turn your head right and left, has the most rotation. So we're trying to restore all of these movements to the spine: side bending, flexion, extension, and the rotation of the spine. And here you can see some common deviations. Now, the reason why I'm going over this is, again, a lot of times when you might be doing Pilates in another place or even just regular ab exercises, people will tell you to push your lower back into the ground. And I'm here to tell you don't do that, because we're all going to start walking around like number C here, the flat back, complete flat back. You see that right in the middle, letter C. On the picture on the far left is normal posture, and you can see how those spinal curves are still there. And we want to strengthen the ability to hold those curves. When you start to push the back down, we start to get into these different deviations. So if I go from left to right, the first one is lordosis, and that's that overarched lower back that a lot of people have. So that's lordosis. The second is kyphosis, which is the roundness of the upper back. So extreme roundness. Now, those are curves. We do need those curves. So we always have a little lordosis, a little kyphosis, a little rounded back. But it's when they get into extreme and starts to knock all of our joints out of position that's important. We got a flat back, which is absence of any curve in the lower back especially. And then you have sway back, which is kind of flat lower back, but rounded. And I'm sure if you've seen people walk around now, you can look at them and kind of see what's going on. And all those postural imbalances are generally due to muscle tightness where it shouldn't be, or, from sitting where our muscles are totally kind of inactive, but stretched out a long time. So that's a little bit about the spine. Let's quickly go about the pelvis now. So first, there are two different versions. There's a male version and a female version. Why? Because females need to poke a little head out, get a little head out of there. Obviously, that's not going to happen with the male, but that's the biggest reason. And that also makes it that the women have a larger pelvis in general. So a lot of times it's easier for women to find that center of gravity just because naturally that's where you're going to walk from, because it is bigger. So you could, and this is the center of our body. So we have the male pelvis. So if you look at it, there are two different halves. It's actually divided up in half. You can see at the top, there's the sacrum that's kind of holding the two halves of the pelvis together. Does everybody follow me with that? And what's interesting is, the pelvis actually, you look at this little model here, it actually rotates independently. So the sides of the pelvis this is a little extreme because it's just rubber bands, but you can see how the pelvis can actually move that way. There is a slight rotation to it so that you can walk. Very important for walking, that you can go here. And then there's our pubic symphysis right down here, which is what attaches the two halves together as well. And again, there's slight movement with that. Oftentimes people will come in with one side of the pelvis more rotated than the other. And Pilates will just naturally help balance that out. Just the kind of work that we do. Yep. Then we have the shoulder girdle, which is the next part. So in Pilates, after we've worked with the pelvis and gotten you moving from your pelvis, we'll actually then start to work on the shoulder girdle. And the reason I bring this up is to understand what's the shoulder and what's not. So a lot of times we'll talk about working, keeping tense in your shoulders or whatever. And actually the shoulder muscle is right here. So the shoulders are not really, it's the traps or your neck, those muscles that are causing the problem and postural problem. So you'll see here we've got the shoulder blades, and then here's the terrible traps. So oftentimes what we see is that muscle that connects from the skull to the top of the collarbone is actually always active and tight. So you're walking around like this. So we are constantly working on relaxing and getting your shoulder blades in the right place. And a lot of the pre-Pilates work we're going to do in a bit helps you with all these common tight spots. So what is posture training? Posture training, I know we've been told to stand up straight a lot and pull the shoulder blades back, right? That's not all there is to posture training. It's actually a lot more complicated, and what we're trying to do is balance out the body. I always say you want good posture to feel like you're wearing a poncho, and it's just everything's just hanging comfortably and nice off of you. So all of the work that we're doing here is actually on getting all these bones to move together so that you do have good posture. And with that, it means it's a fine-tuned balance of the muscles that cause, like say I want to pull my shoulder blades back. Well, in order to actually be able to pull my shoulder blades back, my chest has to be flexible. So if we're too tight here, you can't pull your shoulder blades back. It's just not going to happen. And we don't have good posture. So we try to work on not only what's the strong part, what's holding your shoulder blades back, but what might be getting in the way. Where's the flexibility of it? So we work on both of those things so that you have good posture. And then finally, good breathing is always a really good place to start. And we're going to do a drill on that in a second on how to breathe properly. Because when you're breathing properly, all the muscles of your posture muscles have to be working properly. So it's a pretty easy way to work on your posture is just sitting and breathing mindfully. All right, when you want to think about those balance muscles, I kind of like the idea of it being like a suspension bridge. Every cable has to be finely tuned for that bridge to work correctly. And we want to do the same thing with our body. So it's not a static held thing, it's something that's always moving. And we want to make sure that all the muscles are balanced properly so we can move correctly. Let's see. So one more little segment of lecture and then we'll get moving a little bit. All right, so we're going to talk about the Pilates principles. Now, everything I just told you kind of needed to know to make sense out of these Pilates principles. So the first principle we have is centering the body, working from your center. Second is precision, making sure that you're moving each part of your body the right way. Control, meaning your complete control of your body, your spine, your alignment, your range of motion, all those things. Breath is another Pilates principle. Make sure that you're breathing connected with the movement so that your body can loosen up and correct itself. And then concentration, thinking about centering, precision, control, breath in every single exercise. Are you able to do all those things at the same time? And then that leads finally to flow. Can you stay centered, keep precise, control your movement, breathe properly, concentrate on all those things, and then transition from exercise to exercise without stopping? And that's where you start to work on your stamina as well. And our goal, and also because in life, we move really fast, right? We're not going, oh my gosh, there's something on the floor, I'm going to trip, I better not pull in my abs and step over here. It doesn't work like that. It happens really fast. So your brain has to know how to adapt. And that's the flow of these exercises is what helps your brain learn how to control your body through quick movement. Okay. So let's start a little in depth about centering. So when we talk about centering, moving from your center, it is about those bones here, what we call the Pilates box, from your shoulder blades down to your pelvis. So we want all movement to start from a stable center. Without being a stable center, you're not going to move efficiently. So a lot of the work we do in the studio, and that's why you'll hear me say, pull your abs in like 5 million times, because we're trying to teach the brain how to move from your center of your body. Control, emphasizing precise controlled movements. So I wrote these, you got to be the, I don't know why angel is there, but it sounded good with A. The angel of alignment, the master of momentum, the guardian of gravity, and the ruler of range of motion. So you've got to be in control of all of those things to connect with that principle. Precision, executing movements with accuracy and awareness. So knowing each exercise or each movement has a beginning point and an end point, and we want to hit those exactly right. Concentration, again, focusing your mind on each movement, starting to put all this together. And this is where that cognitive learning, that cognitive prevention of cognitive decline starts to come in. Because we are asking you for this hour, half hour, whatever you're here for, to really think about what you're doing, because it'll pay off when you're out in the real world. Your body will know what to do. Breath, coordinating your breath with the movement. So once you understand the exercises, that's when we start to really layer in the breath work, so that your breath comes with the movement, and all of a sudden it's just not so hard. And you're still getting, the next day you're like, oh, that felt so good. And the next day you'll be like, oh gosh, my abs are sore, my arms are sore. How did that happen? So that breath, moving with the breath, really helps for efficiency. And then flow. So this picture, there are 37 mat exercises. This is the super advanced version. This is the original method. And it should take around a half hour. And that's moving through all of these movements. This is the original mat work. So we have these sequences on the mat. We have these sequences on the reformer as well. But the flow from one next exercise to the next while maintaining connection to all the other principles. And this is where true movement for life happens. Just like I said, the flow of the work is really where you get the benefits of helping your daily life activities, learning how to flow from one thing. And here in the studio, what I try to do is teach you at least a small 5-minute collection of exercises from the Pilates mat workout that can be modified to your ability, but that you can move through. So you've got your own way to move through 5 minutes of exercises that will help release your body. All right. And then, so we're going to start to take a look at the pre-Pilates exercises here. So we have plenty of mats in the studio if you want to lay down and do some with me, or you can stay in, just sit and watch if you do them with me all the time already. Okay. So again, just remember, these pre-Pilates exercises take into account everything we just talked about. It's just, let's find a really simple way to feel these in your body before we get to the actual equipment work or the mat work where it gets more complicated. It's not the Pilates method, but it is connected to the principles of Pilates. And for a lot of our clients, this is where we live for a while, is just working on these things. And then at this studio, what I've done is added strength training with weights in, because a lot of times that's a little bit easier to work those bigger muscle groups, as opposed to getting through a whole advanced Pilates session. It takes years to get to that level in Pilates, advanced Pilates. Yeah, and like I said, we start all new clients with this stuff and really start most of our workouts with it, because we know that since we're over 50, we often come in with different tightnesses that we need to gently let go of before we start to work out. Okay, how are we doing on Zoom?
Good.
Good. Okay, so you're welcome to participate. I'm going to put my little view on gallery so I can see you guys better. All right, just don't worry, Zoom or in studio, no one else is seeing you. Okay, so we're going to start with rib cage breathing. I'm going to start with some explanations about how the breathing apparatus works, and then we will do a little bit of a practice with that. Okay, so that's me and that's me here. So rib cage breathing. a lot of times when we've done breathing in other formats like yoga, it becomes a relaxing thing, which is awesome and definitely is a benefit. In Pilates, when we work on breathing, we are working on breathing. Like it is a bicep curl with a heavy weight. We're working on the muscles that help you breathe better. So just like you're going to do lunges or whatever to help you walk better, this is just simply exercises to help you breathe better. And you'll see within the Pilates method, we'll start really easy, but then we'll complicate things so much that it gets hard to breathe. So you have to really concentrate on your breathing. But with the pre-Pilates stuff, we start really. All right. So Joseph Pilates said, above all else, learn to breathe correctly. Breathing correctly is going to help you have more energy and reduce stress. And you know, when you think about it, if you stop in the middle of the day and you take a couple deep breaths, just how much better does that make you feel? More energy, reduce stress, and a stronger core. So the key to core training is actually really good breathing. It's not doing crunches. Crunches are simply sculpting one of those ab muscles. It has nothing to do really with posture, but the posture training we do here, and especially starting with full breathing, it's going to help all of your postural muscles start to balance out. And then you got, whoops. Yeah, and of course, giving you more energy for life as you do things. So we teach cycling here as well, and we incorporate a lot of the Pilates concepts into the cycling because you need to be able to breathe when you're on the bike, and you also need to be relaxed so your body functions correctly. I always love. I'm getting off the point of breathing. We'll go back to that later. So more energy. So the body has a breathing apparatus. So it starts with the bones, your rib cage. Your rib cage is simply a vessel for your lungs to be in. Okay, the lungs themselves don't have muscles. They're just sacs. And we breathe by creating a vacuum in our rib cage so that the the lungs can expand and contract. And the muscles involved in that, we have the diaphragm, which actually drops down when you inhale so that you start to create more space in your rib cage. Does that make sense? So it actually will drop. You see it in its inactive form on the screen. When it's activated, it actually drops down. It pushes your organs down. So we're trying to create this, space within your rib cage. And then we have muscles in between the ribs. Yummy, yummy. If you're a rib eater. But those tasty ribs that you're sorry, but those are actually there's two sets. There's internal and external. They're called the intercostals, and those are what helps your ribs expand and contract. So not only are we dropping the diaphragm down to create more space, but these muscles are pushing your rib cage out so that you've created more space for your lungs to fill up. All right, and that's what creates better breathing, is really being in control of this expansion and contraction of your rib cage. All right, so we're going to try a little breathing exercise together. All right, so let me put on my Zoom, see if they're doing it. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your hands and place them right on your rib cage like so. And you want, if you can, to get your thumbs to go into the back as well. Oftentimes we start this lying down, but I actually find it feels good sitting up. So you're going to inhale through your nose and then exhale all the air out. And as you're inhaling, your hands should be on the bottom, like the bottom part of your rib cage. As you inhale, you want to feel the ribs press into your hands. And then exhale, you should feel the ribs contract. So you're actually creating, sometimes I give fireplace pillows. We're in Florida, but you know what I'm talking about there up north. So we really feel like we're inhaling, expanding the ribs, and then exhaling. And then adding on, you want to actually feel the thumbs get pressure as you inhale too. So you're actually breathing into the back ribs as well. So you breathe in the side and the back. We're not really focused too much on filling your belly up with air because your lungs aren't there. And then exhale. So this is a great, you can practice this driving, watching TV, anytime you want, just trying to get your brain to understand how to breathe better. And you'll know when you start to walk faster, if you're going out for a nice walk, you'll start to feel yourself breathing not here, but actually down here. And you'll probably be able to walk a little bit longer with that kind of breathing. Okay. So that's your rib cage breathing. And as we go through exercises, we want to try to connect with that breath. A lot of times we'll introduce that a little later, but that's the idea, is that you're breathing that same way through the whole workout. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to have to demonstrate. My boy is not here. Okay. So we are going to start with knee sways. I'm going to jump up on the Cadillac here and just kind of show you what's going on. Can everybody see me somewhere? Okay. So when we start with knee sways, what we're really, again, focusing on these pre-Pilates moves is getting the most common tightness in our most common tight parts of the body loosened up. So here I have my feet as wide as the mat, and then I'm just going to drop my legs to one side. And then to the other side. You want to take about 2 seconds on each side. And you can inhale as you transition, and then exhale all the air out as your legs go to one side. Inhale back to the center, and exhale all the air out as you go to the other side. The only rule here that we're thinking of is keeping both shoulder blades on the ground. So if you're super tight in your lower back, what will happen is the shoulder's going to come up this way because everything's pulling you off. If we keep the shoulder blades down, we're able to target the stretch a little bit better. How's everybody doing? Everybody's watching. This is bizarre. I know how you guys feel. All right, so those are knee sways. And again, it's just trying to get the lower back and hips loosened up, simply put. So that's usually what we start. Everybody just jumps on a mat and starts doing the knee sways because they feel really good, right, Jody? Okay. Let's see what's next. Next up, we've got the hamstring stretch. So let me go ahead and put this here. And what I put this slide up because I want you to see where the spine is while you're lying down. So if you look at the sacrum, which is the pelvis, and you see how that and then the mid back and the skull are all kind of laying on that red line. We're trying to maintain that connection the whole time. So what I start to say is think about putting the sacrum. Hold on a second. Putting the sacrum, that's that back part of your pelvis, you want to keep that flat on the mat. Where is it? There it is. So that it looks like that. And you can kind of see that. So let me show you what happens when we do the hamstring stretch. You can kind of remember my hips are here. I've got a little butt arch in my lower back. So I'm going to grab my leg, and instead of just letting my pelvis come up like this, I'm going to try to keep my pelvis flat. And then you extend one leg up and then bring it down. So you're starting to be aware of any movement in your pelvis. And the tighter the back of your legs are, the less range you're going to have, or the harder this is going to be to keep your pelvis still. And what I do as a teacher is I'll be watching you move and I'll correct you because a lot of times you just don't feel it for how long? You may not feel it for a long time, but we're here to just keep you on, keep you thinking about these things, and then one day they will finally click. They usually do. But that's the hamstring stretch. And notice it's not just about releasing the back of your leg, but it's also about learning how to This is your first time really core training because you're thinking about keeping your spine still while your leg is moving. Pretty cool. Next up, we got knee circles. So we go with, once we feel like we've got this loosened up and I can feel where my pelvis is nice and flat, then you grab the tops of your knees and you just start circling the knees around. So now we're getting even more hip mobility. And I'm trying not to move my pelvis so that I can really isolate the looseness in my hips. This is going to turn into a lot bigger exercises once we get to the mat work, like single leg circles is the bigger version of it. And you can see looking at this, how much more complicated it is than this. Now I can just focus on keeping my butt still. Okay. Any questions on those three so far? Good at home? Okay. All right, this one everybody can do without laying down. This is elbow circle. So everybody needs to do this one. So you can take your hands and place them on your, just like right on the top of your shoulder here, and just start to move your elbows in a circle. And what we're focusing on is, can you move your arms without getting your neck all tightened up? And that's really it. And then you can reverse. And again, just notice if you're starting trying to make it really big and shrugging your shoulders, like we want to avoid that. We just want it to be very simple. And then you can even go in and out like this, elbows together, elbows apart, just really feeling. Anybody have any clicking? No, a little bit of clicking. So as you're practicing this, just notice if you relax or make the range of motion smaller, does that clicking go away? And that's what we're talking about when we talk about that element of control is, do I know what range of motion is safe for me and what's gonna might actually hurt me? And you can really understand. Yeah. And it can take a little bit of practice, but you'll really start to feel, oh yeah, I just want it to feel good. Do I need to make it smaller? We're always trying to make it feel good, not be torturous, at least at the start. Like flipping tires. Yeah. Torso twist. Torso twist. So this one you lay on your side. And again, we're working again on rotation now. So you're going to stack one hand on top of the other. And then you're just opening up, trying to get your shoulder blades on the mat. And what's happening here is we're just working the rotation in our mid back. You want to try to keep your knees together and stacked instead of letting them get pulled apart like this. So you'll know, there he is. You'll know where you are. Ah. If you can keep your knees stacked, and you'll just, maybe you can't get your shoulder blade down yet, and that's fine. You don't force it, you just kind of show up and do it. And just showing up and doing it's gonna help your body change over time. All right, I have my Bill. Come on over, because this will be easier to teach with you on here. So this is Bill. He's gonna come on to the Cadillac. What I missed? We just started you missed a lot of really boring lecture. No, it wasn't boring. Interesting. But one of my goals with this workshop is, I know it's a lot of information, but for this particular workshop, it's kind of, I think a lot of people just don't know where Pilates comes from and how much science is really and research was really done and involved from it. So I want to, even if it is, obviously all these things you don't learn in a day. It takes a year. It can take a year at least but you're still going to get benefits and feel good after like 2 sessions. You maybe even after the first session, you'll feel totally different, which is great. Okay, so Bill's here now. I'm not doing the 100 yet.
Uh-oh.
We don't want that.
We gotta start easy.
gonna start easy. So we're doing what were you doing?
You did torso twist. That's
I was
all.
doing torso twists. And then yeah, we got puppet arms, or what we call zombie arms, is the new name. So you're gonna have your knees bent. And we just keep the knees bent because it's easier for you to control your spine that way in your pelvis. As we get more advanced, you'll start to straighten your legs out and work on more control. Okay, so puppet arms is another way to work on our shoulder blade mobility. So have your palms facing each other. And all you're going to do, you reach up towards the ceiling and then bring it back down. What's really nice is you have the mat here so you can feel what your bones are doing. So when you lift up, the shoulder blades come off the mat. And when you bring them down, the shoulder blades stay in the mat. Great, relax for a second. So going back to these elbow circles, and we talked about relaxing the neck and the traps. We want to do the same thing here. It's really easy to do this when we're doing the exercise, but we actually just want to keep it small and isolate the shoulder girdle. So go ahead and go up, and you're just going to lift up and then bring it down. So his neck is relaxed. And then once you get the movement, we're going to add some breathing into it. You're going to inhale as the arms go up and the shoulder blades are separating. Exhale as you come down. Going back to our rib cage breathing, if you are really inhaling through your rib cage in the back, your arms will float up and then come back down because your rib cage is moving your arms. And so that's, again, we're trying to establish that your arms start from here, not from here, so that you're able to keep your neck healthy and actually get stronger faster once you know how to connect to these big muscle groups here. Okay, good. All right, here comes the good stuff. not that good stuff. Pelvic rocks. Okay, so this is the next level of understanding how to deal with your pelvis. Okay, so again, we're going to start with the lower back release. So there's a nice, yeah, go ahead and move this hand out of your way. So camera can see you. And what a pelvic rock is, we're simply rocking back and forth on the sacrum of the pelvis. So we're not lifting the pelvis up. We're just trying to establish movement in this little joint here where your spine and your pelvis meet. But he's going to start rocking back and forth, and it's really small. We don't want to squeeze the butt to do this. So often in exercise, we'll do what's called a glute bridge, where you squeeze your butt and lift your hips off the ground, which is a great exercise, but it's not this one. This is simply restoring this very small degree of range of motion in the pelvis. And honestly, you'll see this with physical therapists. This is key to getting your back healthy, is being able to restore movement into your pelvis like this. A lot of us are really over squeezing our glutes to protect our back, and that actually structurally messes with the spine. So you're just trying to use little movement. What's really cool when you're just doing the movement of the pelvis, when you practice this a few times, you'll start to feel your lower abdominals contract without even having to think about it, which is nice, because that's what's controlling the pelvis. Okay. And then finally, we've got pelvic lift. So going with this, and now we're really still warming up the lower spine. He's going to curl his hips up off the mat. And then he's going to roll down through his spine. Great. And again, we're trying not to activate the butt cheeks too much. Come up about halfway, stop there. We want to create the sense that you're kind of hanging out on the middle of your back. And this is just decompressing the lower spine. So sometimes, you might even, you see these little fuzzy straps here. You can relax. We'll put your feet in these and you'll hang upside down. But to help you decompress your spine. Not everybody. But this is kind of the precursor to that, is lifting up and just holding it there. Go ahead and lift up again. And just trying to let the lower back release and then roll down through the spine. Good. Really focusing again on these pre-Pilates exercises, just being aware of your pelvis, working on loosening up your lower back in a very simple way. Okay. I Yeah, that's it. So you can relax. Okay. So that's pretty much it for the pre-Pilates stuff. Does anybody have any questions on that? I was hoping they would follow along. Do you guys want to get on the mat and do it? Yes. Okay. So Zoom people were following along, but we're going to do them all successionally. So if you want to lay down, we're going to go through these exercises. You can come up here if you want. If you want to stay in the chair, you can. Otherwise, you can lay down on a mat there. We can do a little bit of the loosening up. Everybody looks very tentative. Don't be scared. That's why you come here. You can take this one if you want. Absolutely. Don't worry, I won't turn the camera on you.
Oh, please, no.
No.
I'm totally camera shy.
I got it good enough to work out earlier.
Okay. Thanks for explaining these things.
You're wondering what they were, right?
This is your first, for those of you at home or in the studio, this is your first realization that exercise doesn't have to hurt. You can push that out of the way if you want.
I'm not doing it since I did an hour workout before here. I mean, before.
Well, just remember it the next time we do these. This is putting it all the learning together. All right, so let's go ahead and start with your knees bent. We'll start with knee sways. Now, if you're on the Cadillac, you can actually grab the poles behind you. It just kind of feels good to stretch. Bend your knees and then have your feet about hip distance apart or a little bit wider. And you can have your knees bent. Yeah. And then make sure your feet are as wide as the mat. And then just drop your knees to one side. Just relax there.
Okay.
It's totally normal.
To get a Charlie horse. And...
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So we're just going to move back and forth. And again, the only thing that only rule you have to follow here is keeping both shoulder blades on the ground. And if you haven't done anything much today, this hopefully feels really good. There you go. Got it, Vicky? Yeah, there's not much to it. If it just go to where it feels good. Fabulous. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is that hamstring stretch. So this is you're going to bring your right knee into your chest and you hold behind the thigh. And the other leg can be bent as well. It's comfortable. So now just kind of remember, I talked about that bony part of the back of your pelvis, or I often call it the coin slot. You know where your coin slot is. Then once you're doing that, just extend your leg up and then bring it back down. And that's all it is. So as you're extending your leg up, just make sure you feel that your pelvis isn't curling under. So most of you, your leg will not straighten. Good. Mom, if you need a pillow for your head, don't get dizzy. I can see you. Awesome. And then just go ahead and switch to the other leg. And you'll also kind of notice which leg might be tighter. So you'll know that if you feel a lot of pressure to keep your pelvis down when you extend the leg up. And if you remember how that spine looked with that little curve in your lower back, you're trying to keep that little curve in your lower back. And normally in a class, we'll get pretty hands-on with you to help you find that and feel it. Got 4 more to go here. All right, and the next thing we've got are those knee circles. So you're gonna bend both knees, grab the tops of your knees, And then just circle your knees away from each other, just making 2 independent circles. Yeah, that was right. And just keep it nice and smooth. Make sure you try to bring your knees all the way together and all the way apart. And you'll just kind of see what's going on. Now, if you're feeling a lot of tension in your lower back, just make the circle smaller. And then you can reverse the circles too. Yeah, so go ahead and hold on.
And I feel like I got this.
Hold
one
on
down.
top of here. I'm gonna grab, yeah. And then circle around like this. They can be small. Yeah, just getting your hips to loosen up.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, again, you might feel things clicking or grabbing in the hips. Reduce your range of motion if you're feeling that. The more you relax, the more that will dissipate. Awesome. And then we've got elbow circles, so you can put your feet back down on the ground. Put your hands on your shoulders and start to circle your elbows around. Go ahead and keep your knees bent. And now that you're laying down, you can feel gravity helping you keep your shoulder blades on the mat. So as you're circling those arms around, just feel heavy, heavy shoulder blades and relaxed neck. Fantastic. And reverse the circles, do like 4 the other direction. Okay, good job. Excellent. So let's do puppet arms next. So relax your arms for a second, just shake it out if you need to. Good, and then go ahead and reach your arms up to the ceiling. And this time you're gonna move your arms up towards the ceiling and then bring them back down onto the mat or your shoulder blades. So reach up towards the ceiling, feel your shoulder blades separate, bring them down, feel your shoulder blades into the mat. Lift up and bring it down. Good. Lift up and bring it down. And now try a big inhale as you reach up. Exhale as the shoulder blades come down. Inhale, reach up. Try to keep the arms a little straighter. Exhale, come down. 2 more. Exhale. And last one. Fabulous. And relax your arms down. Good job. All right, let's try our pelvic rock. So this is a little trickier. So keeping your knees bent, go ahead and take your hands and place them on your hip bones, right on the bones you feel right in the front. Okay, and then just rocking your pelvis back and forth. I'll walk around and see if you got it. So you're gonna try to do this with your pelvis. Yes, there you go. You can have your feet apart, it'll make it a little easier. So let's go ahead and curl and then try to go the other way. Make sure you got a real big arch in your back. And you're just trying to feel the lower back kind of curl a little and then arch a lot. Curl and arch. Because in your core, you've got your abs, of course, which we talk about a lot, which will help curl your pelvis. But then you have muscles in your lower back when you arch your back that we want to strengthen as well. So that, remember, when you were standing, we needed those curves to help sustain load. So here's where you can really work on strengthening those low back muscles. Good job, everybody. And then finally, let's do pelvic lift. So keeping your knees bent, you're gonna put your hands by your side and then just curl your hips up so that you're resting on the middle of your back and then roll back down. Now, if you're newer, if you're just coming back into moving, your hamstrings might cramp up on this one. If they do, just relax. Don't worry about it. It gets better. Because right now, what's happening is your brain's sending all these neural signals to all these different things because you're moving your pelvis all of a sudden. Okay. So now let's add some breathing to this. So go ahead and bring your hips down. Inhale, stay, and then exhale, curl up. So now everybody come on up, stay up there. Stay there for an inhale. And then exhale, roll it down. Nice job. Inhale, stay. Exhale, roll up. Inhale, stay. And then exhale, roll down. And for me, this exercise is the first time that I try to help you connect breath to movement. So when you inhale, you're doing nothing. When you exhale, you curl your hips up and you'll feel your abdominals contract as you exhale. Inhale, stay there, do nothing. Exhale, roll it down. And you can start to play with it and feel how just exhaling fully helps you move better. Fabulous. Okay. And those are the basic Pilates, pre-Pilates exercises we do to help you get mobile, but more important, to get your brain learning about your body and how we need to work it. Okay. So let's take like a 5-minute break, and we are going to go over the mat work, and that's it. So I was right. We could keep it under 2 hours. All right. So we're going to go on a break for 5 minutes. So it's 2:14 my time, 1:14 for those on Central. We'll be back at 2:20 or 1:20.
Good job, Baron.
Thanks, Mom. I should put your picture up on the screen. Good job, Mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Need to send that to all the Congress.
Inhale, light, exhale, low. Wow. Oh, I like that. I gotta write that down.
Yeah, come back in the seats because I'm gonna make Bill do all this.
You sure?
Excuse me. What was I just doing? Oh yeah. I am.
He gets cold easy.
I do. I well, my apartment it doesn't have a lot of doesn't get a lot of sun, so it stays, and then I'll put the air on and put my sweatpants and my wool socks in Florida. Yeah. All right, so we're going to start going over the actual Pilates. Joseph Pilates himself didn't actually do beginner, intermediate, advanced, but Romana, who basically took over the teacher training for him, developed a beginning system, an intermediate system, and an advanced system. And it just helps newer teachers be able to progress a client properly. So the beginner mat is what we're going to start with. It's up to about 7 exercises, and in the studio, it's what in the studio, it's really kind of what we try to incorporate in every single workout, that you always do these 5 to 7 exercises so that you've got something that you could always do at home. It goes really, it helps you learn how to move without, you're not doing jumping jacks or anything like that, but it's going to have the same effect, just a lot of support and a lot more efficiently. So you can use it as a warm up for something. I mean, Pilates is a great complement to sports or other kinds of workouts, and it could be your only workout. So we're going to start with these mat exercises, and usually we introduce these slowly after those pre-Pilates exercises you just saw, so that we know that it's not going to be too much, that your body can handle it and all that, but you're going to start to see how things can get a little crazy. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to start with the ideal forms of the exercise. I'm not sure if he knows them. and then I'm going to show you some modifications. So it's like you're going to see where you could go, and then I'll show you how we bridge the gap between the pre-Pilates stuff you just did and then the mat stuff I'm just about to show you. It's not that crazy. Don't look worried. Honestly, the biggest concern we have as trainers when it comes to this stuff is if your bone health is good, if you make sure you don't have osteoporosis or osteopenia, and if you do, we have tons of different ways to modify this to help you out. So it's actually, that's when we really start to bring in the equipment work, actually, because it lets you do a lot of stuff without worrying about hurting yourself. Okay. Let's start the 100. Okay, so the 100, that was a video. I don't know if it'll start. So that's the ideal version of this exercise. It's the very first exercise in the actual Pilates method, mat work, and it's meant to be a warm up, a breathing exercise, and a stretch. Now, the way that you see me doing it and the way that you're going to see Bill do it is the hardest version of it to do. It's the ideal. We like to say it's the ideal version of it, because you're so stretched out, and it requires a lot of core strength and good breathing. But we will progress you appropriately, and I'll show you that after we do the ideal version. It's also a chance for you as a, what do they call them, practitioner. It's a chance for you to feel where your body's at that day. Because the other thing we're training you to do is learn to be aware of where your body's at, so you know how to take care of it. So just because this is the ideal form of the exercise, and just because you did it yesterday, doesn't necessarily mean that's where you're going to start today. This depends on what you did before, the night before, how stiff your back is. Okay, so I'm going to put on the full camera for the 100. And you know what? I'm gonna break it down from easier to harder. That's what I'm gonna do. So, bend your knees, with your feet on the ground, actually. So the very first thing that I usually do when we're gonna really start to introduce the 100 is just focus on breathing. Okay. So, and with the 100, there is a rhythm to the breath, and it's called the 100 because you're pumping your arms 100 times total. Okay. And there's a beat to it. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's one set. I start you with just practicing breathing that way. So he's not going to do anything. He's just going to lay here. He's going to inhale for 5 counts and exhale for 5 counts. Okay. So here we go. You ready? It's going to be real exciting for y'all to watch. Here we go. You inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3. Now inhale through the nose. And exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4. Relax. All right, so that's the pattern. What we're focusing on is, can you fully inhale for 5 counts, and then fully exhale in 5 counts? So that's a big feat. That's going to take a lot. Remember those muscles we looked at earlier, the breathing apparatus muscles? That's what you're working here. So let's try it again. Make sure you force all the air out within 5 counts. Here we go. We go. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got to be all out by then. And exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a great way to practice the 100. Is simply laying down and just practice counting. You want to try it seated? Great place to do it. So we're all going to try it. Put your hands on your rib cage. Sound like Kermit the Frog. Okay, and here we go. You're going to inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. All right, good. Relax. So now that you kind of got a gist of it, can you fully inhale for 5 counts? But most importantly, can you fully exhale by the end of count number 5? All right, let's try it. And it should feel almost like you're giving yourself a little workout. Ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2. Now try to keep the chest breathing at a minimum. And try to feel your rib cage go in and out in those 5 counts. In 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale and relax. So that was almost 10 breaths, which is what we're working towards. And I was just thinking, you might have had a little introduction to the concentration principle, because you might have lost it by around 8. Maybe your brain checked out. You know, that's normal. But, you know, when we're talking about concentration, we want to fully exhale every single time for 10 breaths. Okay. So that's the basic concept of the 100. So now we start to make it a little more challenging so that our body temperature can get warmed up. So now he's going to lift his head up and he's going to pump his arms at the same time. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4. 2 more sets. So now there's a little more going on. You're using the pumps to create instability in your body and get your shoulders warmed up, and also to help you count those breaths and relax. Good. Head lift is optional. So if you have osteoporosis, or even if it just gets tired, as it will at first, you just put your head down. Most often the tight neck is actually caused by a tight lower back, because you can't curl up from your spine. So you start jamming your head down, and that creates a lot of tension here. But that's something we work on. Okay. So that was a little more complicated, right? So now we're going to do the full version. Actually, you're going to bring your knees up. Now the next challenge is for him to hold his legs up while doing it. All right, curl up. So this is going to put more taxing onto the core. So go. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, as you're using these progressions, you'll know it's too hard if you can't breathe. You can't really breathe. If you can't get there, then you have to put your feet back down. Stop the pumps. Just focus on breathing, whatever you need to do to regress, just to make sure you're fully breathing. Does that make sense? You'll really feel it when you get on the mat. We won't do this one, but when you start, when we see that you're ready to go to the next level, we'll take you there. Or even if you come in, I know Jody always asks, that my leg's supposed to be straight or are they supposed to be bent? I'm not really sure until I see what's going on with your movement. So if I see that if you're reaching out and I see strain here and you're kind of locked up and lifting off the mat, then I know that we've started at too hard of a progression that day. And then we bring it back until you're warmed up and then change it. So the final version is the ideal version. You're actually gonna start with your legs straight on the mat. And all at once, you lift your head and your toes, come into position, lift your feet up too, and start pumping. And lay down just a little more and bring your legs a little higher. There. So this is the ideal version. Point your toes, make it look pretty. But this is the ideal version. Now his legs are longer, which is putting more effort in the core. Everything's trying to stop you from breathing fully, but you've got to really work that breath. Okay, one more. A little bit more. Lower down just a little bit more. It's almost like you're laying down. There you go. You're going to feel so good tomorrow and relax. So that's the ideal version. Now, as long as you're generally healthy in your spine, something you can totally achieve. In other words, if you don't have any issues where lifting your head up is going to damage your spine, any lower back issues, we would keep you regress down until you felt more confident. But this is pretty much once your body's somewhat stable, no matter what age you are, you could be able to do that. So he was still doing this until through 80s. I think he died when he was 87. Joseph Pilates, and his Romana, one of his disciples, she was still doing little somersaults on this thing in her 80s as well. So it's it's something that if you're moving and consistent with it, you can do it for the rest of your life, which is cool. So that's the 100. And again, most people, a lot of Pilates people, practitioners, they hear the 100 and they just freak out because it is challenging at first, but we want to make sure that it feels good. So we'll always help you find a way to do it that feels right for your body, that just doesn't feel totally off. Because again, that breath work is what's going to help you throughout the rest of the workout. All right, so the next thing we have are roll-ups. And we're going to start with the ideal version of the roll-up. No, we won't. We'll start with the half roll down since you're up there. So when we're teaching this to first-time people, you're going to bend your knees, and then you're just going to roll halfway back, and then curl back up. Make sure you stay curved in your spine. So what we're trying to do is restore that curve, that flexion in your spine. Again, if you have osteoporosis, this is not something we would do. We would do something different just to be safe. But in general, healthy spine, we're just going to try to get the curve in your spine back, your ability to curve it. Now, that's your half roll down. So once we feel that you're confident moving from your center, we're going to go into the full roll up. So bring your legs together, roll all the way down, and then roll all the way up. So this is where that will progress to. And again, this is the second exercise in the mat work, if we're just doing the mat workout. So this is still part of your warm-up. So it's a nice big stretch here. Keep your legs together. Good. And what we're looking for is that your back, can you be careful? Can you come up like almost straightening your back? Like pull with your legs a little bit more. That was still pretty good. But what you'll see a lot of time when you first start, which is why we do the half roll down first, is it's really hard to manipulate your lower back. So if you go back to, lay down, put your hands down, set for pelvic lift. So in the pre-Pilates mat work, the way that we address that is this pelvic lift. Remember that? We did that? And that just helps you really work on the mobility of your lower back in a much simpler way. So do you see how that pre-Pilates stuff, this is much easier to manage as a beginner than maybe that roll up would be. And so as an instructor, I'm looking to see that you can articulate through your lower spine like this, roll down before I'd even put you into a half roll down. And Jody's just itching for me to pull this out. So I'll break away since I can, because why not? The other thing we haven't really talked a lot about is the equipment. And so the Cadillac is one of the first pieces he invented. It's got a stable base, it doesn't move, so you can really just focus on support and isolation. So we're gonna do a roll back. The other way we help you get ready for roll-ups like that is we use the equipment. And so this is called a rollback. He's going to grab this bar and then just start to roll back all the way down onto the mat. And what happens, the further he rolls back, the more tension the spring has, so the more it helps you. So now roll up, you've got assistance. It's helping you roll up, instead of just doing it on your own like we did in the mat work, right? And this just allows him to focus solely on what's going on in his lower back and his pelvis and his abdominals. And really trying to find that, work on this stretch. And again, he's pretty relaxed up in his shoulders because he's just letting himself hang off the bar. And it feels really good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do that a little later. Actually, let's do it now. Sorry, Zoom people, you don't have a tower. But you guys, if you want, go ahead and jump on the tower. I just need to move. Put the springs on number 9. Lucky number 9. So for those of you who have been here before, I know my mom's been here before, we put numbers on the tower so that you know what hook you're supposed to be on. I finally did it. Here. Okay, so for those of you in studio, your feet are going to be on the poles, and then you can sit up. Hold on a second, and then you're going to sit facing here. Got it. All right.
Yes. Okay, so you're not gonna do this one. Oh, yeah, you're not gonna do this one. So you're peeing or whatever. Yeah, so go ahead and just lay down again and you're gonna do the pelvic lift instead. Okay. So that's how we help you with that. It's okay, as we work with you, we'll get to know you a lot better. But yeah, go ahead and lay down because I don't.
Am I still here? Yeah, okay. All right, so you've got your hands a little wider than your shoulders. And then what you're gonna do is just roll down onto the mat, just like you saw. And then, yeah, well, I'm giving them steps. So then roll back up. So the first thing I have to do is we have to establish the fact that you don't have to work against the equipment. You can work with it. So I'm gonna have you scoot over this way a little bit. You okay over there, Vicky? That's good. Okay, so bend your knees because that makes it easier. And then from here, start to roll down. And the minute you feel tension on the springs, just curve your spine more and allow it to get really heavy. And and then when you come up, you just lift your head up and roll up slowly again, letting the springs help you. It takes some time to get used to. Good. Yeah, so everybody come up one more time. And this is for Vicky too. This time as you roll your spine down, you're gonna roll down one, so come back up. Teresa, yeah, I said Vicky. So now round your spine, and now as you roll down, imagine each vertebra of your spine going down one at a time into the mat. Each bone one at a time. It should feel really good. And then roll back up. Awesome, everybody. All right, so you got a little taste of that. How'd that feel? It feels good, doesn't it? And that's ideally what you want Pilates to feel like. That stretchy. So come back over. Let's finish this up. Is that working? Okay. So next up, we've got single leg circle. Okay, so for single leg circles, build back on the caddy. So remember, can you show knee circles? So remember knee circles? So knee circles is focusing on hip mobility in a very easier supported way. This is gonna do the same thing, but in a little bit more complex way. So single leg circles, you're gonna have one leg up towards the ceiling, all right? And then he's gonna try to keep his hips and shoulders stable and circle the leg around. Now, the whole idea is that the pelvis does not move too much to start so that you're really isolating the hip joint. If you allow the pelvis to move, you're kind of overriding the tightness in your tightness in your hips. And then you're going to go the other way. So that whole focus here is keeping the hips still. Yep. And then switch legs. And then we just do, and all these exercises, maximum is 8 to 10 reps of each thing. We don't repeat them. We don't do sets. We just go one after the other. If you remember that chart that we did, that I showed you of all those mat exercises, that's the system. And it's designed, and relax, basically you're working every muscle in your body, every exercise. So that's why we don't need to do more reps, because he didn't believe in lactic acid. He didn't believe in that burn. He thought it was putting poison in the body. So we're never trying to, like, when you watch that SNL video, shake, burn, it's not that at all. It can happen. It can absolutely happen. But that's not the goal. The goal is to move your body with zest and energy. And we just keep getting you stronger by making the exercises more complex. Okay, so that's single leg circles. Next up, we've got rolling like a ball. So rock up to seated. So if you look at the structure so far, we did the 100, which is basically a full body warm up. We did the roll up, which is getting the spine, isolating the stretch in the spine and even the back of the legs. We did single leg circles. You can roll up. Oh, yeah, you're good. Single leg circles to get the hip joints a little more lubed up and more connection to your center. And then we're moving into rolling like a ball, which is going to do a couple things. It's going to get your proprioception going, so you're feeling your body unstable, and it's also going to continue to warm up your back. So go ahead and lift up your feet. And the first thing we really do is just have you hold this position and breathe. Just finding that balance. And you know, what's nice about this position is you can actually relax into it, believe it or not, just in this little balance here. And then you're going to roll back. So you roll back and come right back up. Okay. And what's happening is you're trying to keep the spine round so that you just glide through each vertebra of your spine. So kind of like how you did that roll back on the tower. It's the same idea, but a little crazier. And you also have to get balance at the top. Great. So relax for a second. So when I talked about the proprioception part, that means balancing. So lift your legs up, and right away his brain's going to start figuring out how to balance. And then we talked about control, and I remember said it was you're the guardian of gravity and the master of momentum. You need those things to do this exercise. It's not just muscle, it's actually working with gravity. So go ahead and roll back and come back up. And so what his brain's doing is it just knows how much energy it needs to stay in control, but still use momentum and gravity. Does that make sense? Kind of. So what that translates to in the real world is now your brain is more able to respond if you stepped off a curb you didn't know was there. If you tripped over something, you could catch yourself. That's what's happening right now at this exercise. All right, go ahead and put your feet down and lie down. Okay. So, I actually will do this later. I was going to show you a flow. The next thing we do is called the abdominal 5. So it's 5 abdominal exercises. They get your abdominals fired up, but it's still a lot of stretching. But these get harder and harder with each one. So the first one we do is single leg stretch. Bring your knees in, you're going to grab one leg. And this one, you're trying to pull it in as much as you can, but keep your pelvis flat. So just like we were working on those hamstring stretches, trying to keep your pelvis down, you're trying to focus on that too. Now switch your legs. Yeah. And switch. And I want to just, can you do something really weird for me? You're going to stand up and do just do like a little squat, like this. Just sit down on your, yeah. So remember, we talked about one of our goals is be able to do that. And pick something off the floor. Go ahead and lay back down onto your back. If you see what's going on with the hip joint, go ahead and grab single leg stretch. Ta! It's that same position with your leg. So that's helping you restore that mobility to your hip. Does that make sense? You got that? So switch. And you want to pull that knee in as much as you can. Now just kind of notice this leg is not as flexible as the other. And switch, you can see, has a little harder time pulling it in. And that's normal. Yeah. So that's one single leg stretch. Then we make it harder with double leg stretch. And he's trying to stretch out of his hip sockets and come back in. And stretch out and come back in. Yeah. And you're inhaling as you go out, exhaling as you go in. And then relax. Good. One little thing with this exercise, you're going to try to keep your eyes on your toes the whole time. So curl up again. Let's do it a couple more times. This time when you extend your arms out, keep your head up and don't let this fall back. You stay lifted the whole, there you go. And that's just helping him train stability in his spine while getting that big stretch. And stop. He's really good for this. You can see the ease of movement in his hip joint. That's what we're trying to get back to. Sitting down, standing up, sitting down, standing up. Just a lot easier to manage when you're laying on your back. Okay, scissors. So the next one, we straighten the legs, make things a little harder. So go ahead and hold all the way up here. Bring this leg a little higher. I want you to hold up here. Now you're gonna pull on that leg. Now notice his pelvis is curled up a bit, trying to keep the pelvis down. And then you give it 2 pulls and then switch. When you focus on keeping your pelvis down in this exercise, it activates your abs automatically. Yeah. And then put your hands behind your head. Next up, we have lower lift. Yep, we're gonna try to get all the way up, yep, and lower down. So things are getting harder now because now 2 legs, really long. Try to keep your butt down when your legs come up. So we still want to keep that lower back off the mat. There you go, lower. And as you come up, you try not to put that, that's it. So you're reinforcing good alignment down here. And then you got crisscross. And this is the first time in the mat workout we get rotation. His hips stay still. We're still working that hip flexion, but we're also twisting from the torso. Good, and relax. So we can do no more than 10 reps of each. When you first start, we don't go one after the other. We maybe do 2 of them first, like the first 2, and then go ahead and sit up and we'll do spine stretch forward. So after those exercises, we had the first time we're seated upright and he's just gonna reach forward. And then really roll up and try to roll straight up. So we're trying to, this is the first time you have to hold your spine straight against gravity in the workout. That's it. And it's just a nice big stretch for the spine here. And then all the muscles in the torso are activated as he rolls up. Yeah, and relax. So those are the basic, oh wait, we have saw next. Take your arms out to the side.
Oh, never saw.
I don't know if you've learned it
I
actually.
don't think
So I'm gonna
we're-
teach it to him. He's just learning all this Pilates stuff. So saw, take your feet as wide as the mat. You're gonna take your arms out to the side, which might be an issue. All right, so for saw, it's the same thing. So actually go back to spine stretch forward. So go forward. So just see how this is nice and lifted and he's stretching up here, head down. Okay, gorgeous, nice and fine. So when you get that, then we're gonna make it a little more interesting and add a twist to it. So twist to the right. Now, just like spine stretch forward, your head drops, this stretches. I'm gonna bring this arm back here. And now he's really working the tightness on the opposite side of the back here. Lift up and then twist to the other side. And stretch, good. And come back up. So again, now we're trying to keep the pelvis still, but restoring this mobility into the middle spine as we do that. Okay, good.
That's the saw.
That is saw. And what typically will happen is you'll this goes back to show them torso twist. Oh, no, knee sways. Knee sways. It's actually knee sways. Grab onto the poles. The very first thing you did, really, was trying to get this rotation here, but now come up for saw, and we've just changed which part of the body's moving. So much easier laying down to work on that, but now when we're up here, he's got to think about keeping his body upright in good posture and keeping his hips still. So that's why, at least for most of our clients, when we get started, we don't do this exercise for a while because it's a lot. It can be a lot to manage. Depends on the body. Depends on the client. But we might find that you're going to get more benefit doing those knee sways. Or if I say that knee sways are still a challenge for you to keep one shoulder blade down, this might not be the best exercise for you yet, but we work towards it. And then let's do one final thing, and that's cobra. So you're gonna lay down on your stomach. Okay, and so this is the first time we're actually gonna address the shoulder girdle in this mat sequence, but upside down, laying on your stomach, which is much different. So you're gonna put your hands under your shoulders and then elbows up to the ceiling. And for this one, you're just gonna rest his head on the mat. I can move this out of your way. I don't know what will happen. Okay, and so his forehead's relaxed on the mat because we're trying to keep the neck relaxed. So what we're doing is working with pulling your shoulder blades back. So all he's gonna do is squeeze the shoulder blades and then drop them down. So this is how we prep everybody to start working on the back muscles. Pull the shoulder blades back. And the reason why is a lot of times when we do this exercise, we actually don't pull the shoulder blades back. So go ahead and come up and just kind of push into your lower back. And keep this really rounded forward. Yeah, so right now this is all out of alignment. You see that? And he's pushing into his lower back, lay down. That's what we don't want. We're gonna keep this active and stable, but we just wanna isolate the shoulder blades. So let your shoulders relax again. Keep your head down. Now pull your shoulder blades back and lower them down. That's it. Puppet arms, but upside down. And it's a lot harder. So once I can see that he can move his shoulders independently from his neck, then I'm going to make it a little bit harder. So pull the shoulder blades back. Now just lift your head an inch, not too far. So trying to lift his head without going into the lower back. So it's really not that far. So lift your head. And what I'm looking for too is that he doesn't round his shoulders again. He stayed back. And then lower down. And then the last little challenge is to lift up your hands. So we go ahead. Now lift your hands up just a little bit. Keep the chest open without pushing into your lower back. So you can see he hasn't really come up that high. He's just working his posture upside down. And then go ahead and sit back into child's pose and relax. Because while it's excellent for your back, it's much harder to do upside down than laying on your back. But that's how we strengthen it. And those are the mat exercises. So the idea is that we teach you these and you're able to do them one after the other. But what we will do is say your roll-ups aren't good for you. You'll just know to do the pelvic lift instead. So we work with you to find the right sequence for you right now that fits your body, but you can still work on a flow. Because that's really, he said movement heals. It's movement that heals your body, not isolating it. So we want to get you able to move where your brain isn't saying, don't hurt yourself, don't hurt yourself, where your brain knows, I think you're going to be fine. It's going to feel good. And then you flow. And then your body starts to go, oh, I can relax. That's the whole idea. So I showed you last little thing I'm going to cover before we're done. We go to any questions. It's just a little bit more about how the equipment supports the body. So showing you all those mat exercises, the mat work is really hard. It doesn't support your body at all. You have to have really good body awareness, and your body has to be really balanced between flexibility and strength. Most of us don't come into the workout like that. We need a little help. So that's what he invented the equipment for, is to help support the body. So you experienced that already with the rollback. So I'm going to show you Jody's favorite, which is leg springs. So so that now so go ahead and do double leg stretch. It's the best example I have, or the 100. The double leg stretch, you see, he's having to curl up a little bit more. He's having to hold his legs up on his own, and they're lengthened, which makes it really hard.
And I'm shaking.
I was gonna start talking more and see how long you do it. So in order to help us get used to what we should be working, how we should feel when we do that, we're going to add some support. So we have leg springs. Now there's a myth that this was created when he was working in the war camp, that he took hospital beds apart and made all this stuff. That's where the Cadillac came from. But supposedly they didn't have springs in their beds, they were straw beds. So we don't know that that's true. But it's kind of fun to think about. And you will see pictures of him actually working out on a bed. He designed a bed. He actually designed a bed that was like a V. I don't really get the science behind it yet. I have to research. But it was literally a V. And you slept, I guess you slept on your side. I don't know. Very bizarre. So we're going to use these springs to help hold the legs up. Okay. And then also it's really cool is you've got the mat underneath you so you can feel where your spine should be. So he's going to extend your legs out. And you can see now he's stretched out just like he was, but now the springs are holding his legs up. And again, that helps him focus on core control, even using his butt cheeks a little bit, his inner thighs. Now bend back in. And then we just get him moving. These are called frogs. And you're going out and in. There's that squat again. If you see it right there, there's your squat. And he's also keeping his spine straight. So he's really training for that squat. But much easier. And then like here, I can tell him, hey, stretch these springs out longer with your legs. And he starts to stretch out of his hip joints more. That's how you want that exercise, double leg stretch, to feel. Come back in. Now take the straps off your feet and just do the double leg in. So now, yeah. So now he really stretch your legs out like you still had those springs on. Really stretch the springs out. Yeah, you got it. And bring it back in. So rest. So that's how we use the equipment to help you with being more autonomous with just your body weight. Is doing that. And there's all sorts of equipment you see in the studio. We've got the chairs over here, these little boxy things that help you. They're a little bit more, I guess, they're a little harder. But they help you working against gravity vertically a lot. So going up and down and things. We've got the reformers, which just help you tie your movement with stability. There's the armchairs back there. We've got these little humps that help you release your hips. So there's equipment invented for everything. There's a toe corrector that fixes bunions. So he went all the way there. I have it somewhere. I'll show you. So we've got, you're done, by the way. Oh. This is called the foot corrector. So we developed this piece of equipment to help work on the strength and mobility of your feet. Where you'll just like press, you can see this is kind of domed, so you can work your arch of your foot around it. And then the whole goal, you probably can't see it that well on Zoom, but when you're pressing it up and down, it kind of rocks independently. So you can see this kind of, one side can go down more than the other. So when you're working with it, pressing your foot on it, I might as well show you. You're actually trying not to let it go one way or the other. You're trying to keep it level as much as you can. And that just helps you start to put your weight on your foot the right place. It helps strengthen your toes and your arches better. And then we have the toe corrector. You would basically put your big toes in here and then turn your feet out, and it pulls your toes apart. It tries to straighten out that joint on your toe. So that's pretty cool. But it actually does help you engage your core as well when you use it. So he invented something for everything. And between me and the trainers here who I train on, I will be training on all this little special equipment that you don't get at a lot of the mainstream Pilates places. They just do the reformer. But there's so much more that we can do that's actually more easier to manage, and you'll get results without a lot of suffering, even though it looks pretty horrible, doesn't it? Okay. I think, let me just double check here where we're at. So I talked about the equipment. So as far as like how we work in the studio, let me just change my screen here. How we work in the studio, what I discovered is, there's Pilates is a huge method, and it can take years to master. But there's so much of it that is useful. So what we try to do here in our sessions is split half and half. We'll do a half hour of Pilates work, and then we can do a half hour of functional weight training where you're doing those moves like putting things over your head, doing squats, things that are full body that are in and supporting your own body weight that honestly, with a lot of the Pilates stuff, unless you're doing one-on-ones, it's a little difficult to do in a group. So, because when you get more advanced, there's more risk of falling down off things and all that. So, so what I did is I said, let's get people moving right away. Let's get them doing those big moves and strengthening their bodies. And what happens is the form correct, you hear trainers talk about good form a lot, when you're doing certain weightlifting moves. What's really cool about doing the Pilates first is it actually trains your body to move well, so you don't have to think so much about your technique when you're lifting the weights, and you can just move and get a good workout within 20 minutes. So that's how we've integrated everything here. And then of course I also offer just full Pilates session as well, because I think honestly there's a benefit to doing a full hour of Pilates a week. Don't you think, Jody? You guys too. Yeah, half hour we only kind of touch the surface. Unless you're super advanced, we can go boom, 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 boom. But then you don't even need to lift weights anymore. Let's see. All right, do we have any questions after all of that info? Bring my Zoom up.
So is the order is there is an order.
Yes, so, well, there's order in the mat work. Good, I'm glad you're about, because I did want to talk about this. There's order in the mat work. There's order in the reformer sequence that you're always trying to work on. It's based on a couple different things. It's based on warming up the body. A nice workout that starts with a warm up, has its intense time, and then a cool down. With Pilates, what was I just going to say? Yeah, so there's that's one. It also, the system alternates muscle groups. So one exercise you're going to be focused on forward bending, then the next exercise you're going to be forward on back bending. One's exercise, then you're going to go to side bending, then you're going to go to rotation. So the way that the exercises are put together balances the body out and prepares it for the next thing. So, he took a lot of time figuring out his order of how he does things. And that's what I tried, even if someone, there's different schools of Pilates. I'm more classical, closer to what he taught. There's contemporary. And I'm like, if you're going to make up your own order, at least it should make sense, So any instructor I would encourage, like, are you thinking about balancing the body out? Are you thinking about warm up? But he already did that, and it's been going for 100 years. So I think I'm just gonna stick with what he did. But then there's also that's not the whole session. Then like if we're doing a full Pilates session, we do a half hour of one of the orders, and then we take time and like, well, what piece of equipment, based on what I saw in that flowing workout, where do we need to isolate? And so then we'll take the last part of the session to go, okay, I'm going to put you, I saw your shoulders were really rounded here, so we're going to do some work on here where you can feel that differently, and hopefully the next time we do the flowing workout, you'll be able to feel it a little bit more. But the idea is that with this order, the other thing that's nice about it, if you know what exercise is coming next, if you've actually somehow on some level learned the order, you don't have to think about that. So you can really focus on your form. You can really focus on what's coming next. You know how to then feel, how to adjust your body while you're doing the exercises, because that's more beneficial than starting, and fixing something then moving, fixing something then moving. You got to move and fix at the same time. Our goal. Any other questions? Oh, she's looking at the electric chair. Let me switch. So, yeah, actually, it is one of my favorite pieces. I'm going to bring this camera over here. Wow. Boom, boom. Okay, so this is, so if you see there's these smaller chairs here, this is basically the same thing, but it has support. So, after we had, he was laying down doing those frog moves. What's interesting about Pilates is really only a couple exercises. We just do them on different pieces of equipment. So we're gonna do the same moves, seated upright, but here you can feel your spine up against the back. So you're trying to move your legs without this happening. Instead, just isolating here. So that helps your posture, but it also helps you loosen up your legs more. You're not gripping. And then my favorite one, who likes lunges? So this is, I'm going to make this look less scary. So we call this going up front. And honestly, it's a great exercise. You don't want to do lunges. It looks scary, but it's really not, right? So you'll be up here, but you have your hands up here, and then you're just going up and down. And what this helps you do is work this single leg. So this is obviously, it's great for balance as well, but it really trains you how to work on that one leg. And then eventually, when you get super crazy and advanced, you do the same thing here, but now I don't have any support. So now this is just all strength work. But that you can see that's how we progress. So this is actually a very kind machine. It just looks horrible. So yeah, so that's that. I never thought about it that way. So this is called the pedipole. And I'll take this one out. So you would stand up against it. And so right now what I can do is I can actually pull my shoulder blades around the pole. And you're actually supposed to do it up on your toes. And then you can press down. But the whole idea is that you're not moving the pole. So it's kind of loose on purpose. So that what I'm trying to do is move without moving the pole back and forth as much as I can. So now everything goes into here and into my back. So this is another one of those pieces of equipment you won't see at a lot of studios, but it's like the ultimate for anyone who has like osteoporosis or anything like that. You can get so much done on here. There's a lot we can do on here, especially for the newer exercise, where it's comfortable because you're standing up, but you're able to really, you've got this little thing for feedback, and it helps you kind of train some of the stuff you'd be lying down doing. In fact, we'd progress you from lying down to this so that you're learning how to control your spine. It's great. Okay. So to finish, you've got a couple more. Oh, look at that. Let's see. A couple more workshops coming at you. So we've got the reformer workshop where I'm going to teach you the reformer exercises. And now that you know this stuff, you'll be able to kind of see, oh, that was one of the mat exercises, but made easier on the reformer. But really break this down and talk about, again, our focus is mostly on how it supports the body and helps you move without worrying about pain or falling or anything. It's just a nice support of the body to help you feel like you're moving and working out. July 17th is a weightlifting workshop. So we're going to talk about weightlifting for adults 50 plus and what kind of movements you need to focus on, why power training and heavy weights are good for us if we're over 50, but just choosing the right exercises to do that. You're not going to waste time with a million bicep curls when you really want to move your legs and work on overhead things. So there's what I love about that is just helps you focus on 20 minutes in and out. This is what I needed to do. I'm done. I can go enjoy the beach or whatever you're going to do. And then Saturday, July 27th is Crochet for a Cause. So I believe, I love crafts, but I also believe that, learning a new skill, again, is really important to your mental health and to your cognitive health. So we are doing 2 simple stitches, crocheting for a cause, and it's connected with the charity that Jody works with. And we're going to be making baby blankets to send to Africa, Malawi, so that you can experiment making a baby blanket, and then we'll have another crochet course after that if you want to do something fancier. But this will be a nice, really simple way to learn how to crochet and also do something that's really needed for these people. So, because I love making things, I just don't know what to do with them half the time. So that is it. Are we good on Zoom? Are we still there?
Yeah,
Thanks
still here.
for
Good.
joining us via Zoom. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
It was good.
All right, good. Well, I'll look forward to seeing you guys hopefully at the next one. And oh yeah, the beginner reformer one I told you, July 10th. Yeah. And thank you so much for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye, Mom.
Bye.
Bye, Ann.
Bye.
Mom, you look good.
New thing I've never seen.
I want to try the blending thing sometime.
Oh yeah.
I have that.
Oh, they changed the buttons on here.